Here.
Mrs. Gray. President Jenkins Brown.
Here. We have a quorum. Thank you so much, Secretary Snelling. Now, first on our agenda is the personnel report. Dr. Knopf.
Good evening, Board. Tonight on the personnel report, you will take action on, on April 16th, 2025, a panel of stakeholders convened to conduct interviews for the assistant principal vacancy. A total of 5 candidates were interviewed, 4 male and 1 female. Following a thorough review of qualifications, interview performance, and stakeholder input, the panel recommended the top 2 candidates to the superintendent for final consideration. After conducting reference checks, completing a Google search, and consulting with my administrative team, I am pleased to recommend Mr. Christopher Vanderkyle for the position of assistant principal at Sandridge School District 172. Mr. Vanderkyle brings approximately 9 years of experience as an elementary school assistant principal. He demonstrated strong familiarity with our existing programs, specifically iReady Reading and Math, and offered innovative ideas to enhance student registration, attendance, fostering a positive school culture and climate, increasing student achievement, and strengthening our athletic program. Mr. Vanderkyle holds a master's degree in education administration from Grand Canyon University, 2014, and a bachelor's degree in education earned in 1999. His professional background includes prior leadership roles in Cicero School District as well as Chicago Public Schools. He's being recommended at a starting salary of $92,500, which includes 20 vacation days, 14 sick days, 2 personal business days, board paid TRS, and medical benefits. We're also requesting up to 10 transitional days. We have not had a person in the role of assistant principal this year, and we want him to become familiar with the students and helping us to create systems for registration as well as residency. We are confident that Mr. Vanderkyle is the best fit for the current needs of Sandridge School District 172 and look forward to the positive contributions he will make in this leadership role. Are there any questions?
Okay. All right. No questions? Okay. All right. So we're going to switch the order a little bit, and we're going to go with the Finance Department bills for approval. Okay. This is Charlotte White.
Good evening, board members and community. The bills for April 2025 totaled $154,681.89. Do you all need to see the various bills?
And, we have new board members that are present, so just FYI, those bills are available. You have them in a binder, and they could be reviewed at any time.
Yes, they can. Are there any questions?
Go to open kitchen.
Last year, we did a contract. We had to bid for our food service, and Open Kitchens won the bid. And we had a few challenges with the company where the children were used to the type of food that we previously had, and they complained about the food because it wasn't pizza from Pizza Hut and things like that. So Open Kitchens came in, and they brought new selections, and they let the board members in the community try them. And so things are going great, and we haven't got any additional complaints from students or parents. So we are extending the contract with them, and the contract increased by 3.6% for the 25-26 school year.
Okay,
Any questions?
no questions?
If not, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Miller.
welcome.
Hope you feel better. All right, next on the agenda is the presentation of the tentative school year 25 budget amendment.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I noticed there are some new members.
There are.
I hear your voice coming from here, but there you are.
Before you begin, I forgot to ask you, when we look in iVisions on the bill list, the old people's names come up, so can you show us how to take their names off and put the new people on
Yes, yes,
there? Okay, forgot.
yes, yes. That's easy. I'll do that tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So I was saying that I noticed there's some new board members here. My name is Alicia Evans, and I do consulting work for the district on the matters of finance. Okay, you ready?
I don't see they were not in the board.
No presentation?
Probably in the regular one.
In the regular one?
Okay. While he's pulling that up, I'll get started just for.
Oh, right here?
Okay. While he's getting ready, I'll get started.
Gotta go to the presentation, it's the second one. No, right there.
You can skip that. Okay, so currently you have a budget that is in place. It is the budget that was approved back in the fall. And what happens is throughout the course of the year, sometimes if there are changes to the budget, you can do a budget amendment. The budget amendment process is the same as the regular board budget process in that you have to present a tentative budget. You have to have a minimum of a 30-day display, and then you have to have a budget hearing and approval. And for budget amendments, they have to happen before June 30th. That's the end of the fiscal year. So we're going to start the process now in April. There isn't 30 days between your April meeting and your May meeting. So what we're going to do is present the tentative in April, and you'll be seeing the final in June, and the hearing will also occur in June. Okay, next. Thank you. Okay, so for those of you that are new, the budget is divided into funds. So most of the activity occurs in Fund 10. That is where most people are paid from. All of your supplies and all of your books and everything is usually paid from Fund 10. Then Fund 20 is the operations and maintenance fund. That's where all of the maintenance activity, utilities, and things like that are paid. And then you have your Fund 30, which is where your debt service is. And then Fund 40 is where your transportation is. And then the other funds are miscellaneous funds, but they're also relevant. So when we put all of the funds together, what we're asking for in the tentative budget is the $1.6 million in revenue. We did see some increases in revenue when we compare it to the last budget that we did. And then we also have the expenditures are also going to grow a little bit as well. We were still able to balance the budget, so we'll have a small surplus of about $125,000. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the changes. So on the revenue side, there were some other revenues that we saw that we received that we did not budget for. So that allowed us to increase the revenue by $576,000. Here are the funds, just for the new folk. These are the funds. So as the money gets distributed through these funds based on where it's coming from and what it will be used for.
Ask a question.
Yes.
Where did the additional revenues come from?
Mm-hmm.
And how is it that we didn't expect them?
So on transportation, because I'll start there and work my way up. On transportation, as you know, we started to transport all of our students. So the amount of the reimbursement for transportation, that's where those dollars are coming from, because we estimated them. And generally, for on the revenue side, we don't estimate high; we estimate low. At the top, most of this money came from some federal sources. So Medicaid is one of the sources where that money came from, and then some of the grant funds. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, now on the education side, we are increasing the education fund by $252,000. This is mostly due to the tuition to our Speed and Echo. Operations and maintenance, we transferred some money from there in order to accommodate some of the higher costs in some of the other funds. So that's what you're seeing there. Transportation, the cost of transportation also increased. And this is not only due to the fact that we're transporting all of our students, but also for special ed transportation. Some of those costs are door-to-door, and so those door-to-door costs are more expensive than regular. And then all of the other funds are staying the same. Okay, so I did want to show you this because if I were you, I would want to know this information. Here is the fund balance that we started with. And initially, in the original budget, we were budgeting a surplus of $98,333, leaving at the end a fund balance of $6.4 million. In the amended budget, this is the surplus that we are anticipating. That will leave a little bit more in the balance at the end of the fiscal year.
And that's the surplus we speak.
Yes.
So our fund balance total is going to be
Yes. Now remember that budgets are the estimate of revenues and expenditures. It could end a little bit better. So just wanted to, this allows us to have a spending plan that we have to stick to for the next few months. Are there any, is that it? I think it is. Oh, that's it. You should have one more slide. Okay. Are there any questions? Other questions?
So the fund balance, the 6.5 million that will remain in the fund balance. Can you just maybe give us
Talk more about it?
yeah.
Okay. So generally, fund balances are a culmination of all of the financial activity that has occurred since the school came into existence. So every year, your fiscal year, you're either adding to the fund balance or you're taking away from the fund balance. And I call it like the magic day because it is on June 30th. So throughout the school year, there's all kind of financial activity happening every day. Sometimes when you look at the fund balance, it's lower than you started because of cash flow issues. That means how money comes into us. And sometimes it's higher because the money comes in and then the expenditures start to match that later. So the Illinois State Board of Education doesn't really monitor the day-to-day activity, but every year at June 30th is when they stop and say, okay, is this district fiscally sound? And that's on June 30th. So that is why everything stops on that day and starts the next day for the new fiscal year. So when I said it's the culmination of all of the financial activity, that fund balance carries us all the time. So what that means is that at June 30th, 2025, all of the revenues get tallied, all the expenditures get tallied, and whatever that number is going to be either the surplus or the deficit for that fiscal year. If there's money left over, meaning that you don't spend as much as you bring in, then it goes into that fund balance. So the number you saw in the column where we started, it gets pushed over and then brought back over for your new fund balance. This is important because, as you know right now, we're having some concerns about some of our federal dollars. And so, yeah, and so you want to make sure that you have a fund balance that can carry you in the event that you don't get money in. You still want to be able to keep your lights on, pay your people, those sort of things. Now, for most people, and you've probably been around as long as me, but for most people, they're very excited about the federal dollar possibility. I'm excited about it, but not as much as most people are, because every 7 to 8 years or so, there's an attack on schools and their money. Sometimes it's at the federal level, sometimes it's at the state level. So back in the day, it was the state, and they were prorating general state aid is what it was called back then. And at the same time, tax bills went out late. So there were times back in the day when school districts had to make short-term borrowing in order to meet their payroll because they did not have a fund balance. And if it lasts long, if these stops in revenues, if they're long-term, then that is an option for some school districts if they don't have enough money. But short-term borrowing costs money. So you have to weigh those odds. So to your question, it's important to maintain a fund balance because you may need it in the future if something happens. Yes. Yes.
Are we calling a fund balance, is it the same as reserves?
Yes,
Okay.
they're the same. That Fund 70 is like the savings account for a district. That's called working cash. And that's one of the funds that you can move money between if you needed to. Generally, we try to make sure that we put money in working cash every year through the taxes, just to make sure that we have that there. All of the other funds have a specific purpose that must be used for that specific purpose. Any other questions?
At what point would we transfer money into, or put money into working cash? And would you second part is, would you recommend a specific amount to go in working cash considering the, situation that the school districts are in with the title?
So working cash, we put money in working cash every year through our tax levy. So generally, most of the funds are limited in the amount of money you can put into them. The education fund is one that's not limited anymore. It used to be, so you would have to balance your levy based on those limitations. But at the moment, because for us, let me just take a look real quick at. So for us, most of our activity is occurring in the educational fund. When we end the year, we're looking at $5.3 million. That would be a good place for that to stay, because again, if there are any concerns with revenue coming in on a timely manner, there's enough here to cover us in that fund. Generally, so I have done transfers from working cash to other funds in the event there's enough money there. But for example, if you wanted to do some sort of special project and you wanted to move money from there to pay for that special project without using any of your current year's revenue, you could do it for that purpose. If the fund falls short for some reason, you can transfer from working cash into any of the other funds as needed.
One more question. We don't have anything budgeted for capital projects, so does that mean that we don't anticipate anything
So,
with the school as far as projects at all this year?
so remember, we're looking at this fiscal year, which ends in June.
Okay, gotcha.
So for this fiscal year, which ends in June, there's nothing there.
Gotcha.
There's no projects happening. If we decide to do projects next year, we would have to allocate money to do them, because right now we don't have any money in the fund
Which means
balance.
that planning needs to take place probably now, right?
So, we were awarded $50,000 from the state, and it's a match grant, but they won't actually start those projects until the summer. So then, you don't pay the bill up front. Once you are invoiced, then we will pay them, and I talked to the architects this morning. The work will start in June, but we won't receive the first bill until July. So then when each department is doing their budget, we will put $100,000. We still had $100,000 in that account, but since we didn't use it, we moved it to another area where there was a deficit.
Now, these projects that we're talking about are supposed to be $100,000 because it's a matching grant, but because the dollar amount isn't that high, we're going to be doing those out of Fund 20,
Fund 20.
which is operations and maintenance.
Okay. Can you remind me again what 30 is?
30 is debt service.
Okay.
So that is how you pay any outstanding debt that you have through that fund.
So was that a life safety grant, that matching grant?
So it is a school maintenance grant. So when we apply for it, we have to indicate what type of improvement we're going to do. So they have different categories. One is emergency, one is life safety, and one is like regular maintenance. So when we check that box, that determines which funds we're going to use to match it with, and then also prioritizes that project for the State Board of Education so they can determine whether or not they're going to award us the grant. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, next on the agenda is the Director of Building and Grounds. Our update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, at last month's meeting, for our new board members, we proposed a new contract with our current cleaning service, which is United Service Companies. We've been in a partnership with United since July 26th of 2021. And we have been very satisfied with their service thus far. So we recommended that we renew their contract, which ends June 30th of this year. So basically, just to give a overview of the service United provides, we have custodians here on a daily basis. They work from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. We have two gentlemen who mainly work in our building, but if one of those gentlemen is either sick or needs a day off, United will provide a temporary replacement so that we're not shorthanded, and we've never experienced a problem with that. They've always been receptive to any issues we've had. And they definitely make sure that they try to do the best they can to service our building. With that being said, we pay on a monthly basis, and they're going to basically honor our contractual agreement from last year with locking in our rates. So our monthly rate currently is $9,354.81 per month, and that dollar amount will stay the same going forward for a 1 year period. And that pricing includes 2 custodians, and if we need additional staff, there's a hourly rate of $23.95, which we oftentimes will bring in extra help depending on if there's an event such as graduation or things like that. Just kind of going on a basic need of how we need to use the service. But in our original contract, we were basically given terms to renew with them for up to 4 years. So this would be our last year that we can renew with them. So we would need to go out to bid for next year. And we are currently putting that bid package together so that that's ready in a timely manner, so that if there is a transition, if we decide not to go with United, it'll just be very simple to bring a new company in, because we'll have more than enough time to transition that new company. With all of that said, me and Dr. Knowles spoke, and she agrees that we should renew for the final year to keep them in-house. So that's basically it. I can answer any questions that anyone may have.
Doesn't seem to be any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, and there's a comment by Dr. Knowles.
Mr. Hayes, I want to let you know how much you are appreciated. Trying to continue to contribute to our reserves. There are times when I suggest things that are just not feasible, and I appreciate a collaborative teammate. I said, hey, I guess I was thinking like a home, and I said, cut all the lights off, just leave the marquee on. And he was like, Dr. Knowles, there's an emergency, you don't want to run into a dark building. And I was thinking, how many emergencies do we really have? But that's why it's called an emergency. When I was in Memphis, I remember calling Mr. Logan at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the school was on fire. And so I'm just thinking, we drove. I have to get back home to my school, but I had a team of people that came here. So I know that at times I could be a little hard, but I'm trying to save money. So one thing that we are looking into is trying to cut off every third light so that there would be some lighting, and he is researching that. And then we received a parent complaint that in the K through 2 wing, the parent stated that the bathroom doors were not locking, and the stall doors were not locking. And so Mr. Hayes immediately investigated that this morning, and then I'm calling at 2 o'clock. I want it fixed, and he's like, Dr. Knowles, you just told me last night at 10 o'clock. So even though my tone can sound harsh, I do know that you have been working by yourself. I love you. I call you my A1 since day one. When I walked into this school by myself, you were always here for me. So I do apologize, but I'm going to write to the parents to let them know we are fixing that. Yes. The board invested, I want to say $1.5 million in renovating all of the restrooms except for this wing, and those are pretty new. And I believe that kids are being kids, and they are kicking the doors in. And so I called JMA Architects, and I said, I told Clyde, this should be under warranty. And he said, Dr. Knowles, it's been 2 years. And so I called them, and I was thinking it was a vendor complaint. But then I remembered being a second grade teacher, and little kids and big kids are just kids. And so if someone is dropping a deuce, kids are kicking the door in to embarrass them, but unfortunately they are damaging our property. So we've put a memo out to teachers to say, when kids are in the bathroom, count out how many kids are going in. You should have a door monitor where the door is open. Students are not exposed. But if you hear anything going on, kids are going to be kids, but we have to be the adults and protect them from themselves and protect the property that we are trying to make this a better place. Those restrooms, it's been 3 years since I've been here, were horrible. There was a smell of urine. They had not been updated, I would say, since the 50s or 60s. And to invest that kind of money in the where you wash your hands, it's like very fancy, it's automatic, but we have found kids standing on those, and when it's mounted to the wall, things today are not built the way that they were in the 50s, and so it was detaching from the wall. Students are destroying the water fountains, and I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? These are brand new since the pandemic, and you would think that people would appreciate having a place to refill their water with cold water, but kids are like, what do you call that? It's like they're tearing off pieces. And so we are going to make a recommendation, and we put it in the budget to have 2 security guards for next school year. Specifically, we definitely need one on the 6 through 8 wing, rotating 6 through 8, 3 through 5. Sandridge is a beautiful school, suburban. Sometimes the way it's tucked away feels a little rural, but we are getting people who are bringing some urban behaviors to the district. And so, in a school of 450, it is not 450 kids, but you might have 20 or 30 kids that there are days where it feels like 400 kids. And so we're being very aggressive in addressing those behaviors, charging parents. First, you give people a warning and we fix it, but letting parents know, hey, this little piece that somebody thought was okay to pick off, that might cost $400 or $500. Now, Clyde has saved us a lot of money trying to fix things on his own, but that's just really destructive. The company won't even send replacement pieces, so we have to piecemeal it together, and we've talked to the students, but we are revising the handbook. Ms. Logan has been instrumental in joining the main office and just shutting all kinds of foolery down, and she said, you know what, you all have a handbook, and I love her because she's honest, and she said, no one is following the rules. It's like the kids have taken over, and so, and it's not necessarily that it's weak leadership, you don't have enough leadership. And so we were doing introductions the other day in a parent meeting, and I said, I'm Kim Knowles, and I'm the social worker, but in that day, I was fixing someone's problem, and I'm like, okay, let me put on my other hat, I'm the superintendent. And so we're working with kids, we're trying to love on them, but we are holding people accountable. And when you do that, the parents are not necessarily, the parents whose kids are doing what's right, they appreciate it. The people who are not doing what's right, they're like, how do you know it's my kid? We are viewing video footage. Parents want to see videos. On occasion, on a rare occasion, that's not best practice to show videos, but sometimes people are in a state of denial regarding what their child or children are doing. And I will say, I want you to see this video. And they're like, oh my God. And then they immediately apologize. I'm not sending him or her to school to do this, but little, it might be your little angel at home, but sometimes kids come here and they just test the waters. And it's just, we're a target because it's so open. And we've been bringing in more people to help, but in a school that's becoming this large and no longer necessarily suburban and rural, we have to add security for protective reasons. We don't have bad situations like guns or drugs, but they're doing destructive things. So that's
And
it.
just to
Sure.
add, I just want to thank Dr. Knowles just for the opportunity that she provided me with being director of buildings and grounds, and I appreciate you as well. And I've been working here almost 8 years, and children will be children. You're going to have a level of vandalism, and a couple of things may get broken, but we definitely address it accordingly. And even a couple of my guys here that work, we try to build a couple of relationships with some of the kids, and to just kind of make them see what they're doing, and that we want to take care of our school, and this is for you guys. You all are here on a daily basis. You deserve a clean and safe environment to function and grow in. And just to add one more thing, we did receive a certificate of excellence from our regional office
Oh, that's
on our
good.
health and safety. knows we are here working hard to make sure that this building is perfect for everybody.
Well, we appreciate you, Mr. Hayes.
And I appreciate you.
And we also appreciate our very own Miss Logan.
One more thing.
All right, does the renewal fee? Oh,
That's it, we've done all those.
gotcha, okay.
Also, one thing, board, tonight we are beginning the student registration process for school year 26. Registration fees for next school year will increase to $125 per student, which encompasses the following essential items: student registration processing, Chromebook insurance fees. Our Chromebooks, we are budgeting to put them on a replacement cycle and eventually allowing the graduating 8th grade class to take their Chromebooks when they've been with us X number of years. We're requiring our students next year to wear student ID cards, curriculum workbook fees. But we've been receiving a lot of complaints from parents regarding bullying and harassment. And although in the student handbook, students have their cell phones and they're supposed to have them turned off and in their book bags or in which are basically in the locker. But we're going to order yonder pouches, and first, kids will be able to keep their cell phones, but when we see that kids are using their phones during the day, they will be given a yonder pouch. The teacher will be given a yonder pouch, and the student will retrieve their phone at the end of the day. Cell phones cost too much money for the staff to take them and to reissue them, because if they're lost or damaged and we take it from you, we have to replace it. But kids are doing very mean things, doing TikTok videos, talking about body shaming, talking about people's weight, talking about their hairstyles and things of that nature, and then it's brewing over into the school. We also have kids, when something happens in the school, before the administrators are provided with an opportunity to investigate the matter, kids are calling their parents. And I have some parents that are younger and they are coming up to the school and ready to engage in battle. And I experienced that twice. The days are running together, but I believe that was once last week and once right before the last board meeting, and then it was once again this board meeting. And we had an incident in the gymnasium where there was a student, and she's running from this little boy, and a group of kids, they start pretty much attacking this little girl in the gymnasium. And so in that moment, we're doing an investigation to say, well, where were the adults? And finally, I see Mr. Logan. I can count on my old faithfuls. And he walked in the gym, and he realized this is not horseplay, and immediately broke it up. And you bring all the parents together, and we're doing parent meetings. And I'm usually against bringing all of that energy into one room. But we had a very good parent meeting, and we have assured parents that moving forward, we are taking all of these situations seriously. But when I reached out to the Linwood Police Department, they shared with me, you cannot have second graders arrested. And I said, I'm not asking for them to be arrested, but this little girl's braid was snatched out of her head with her real hair attached to it. And if those kids went to a school in a different zip code, their parents would have been required to pick them up from the police department. And so it's like I'm literally running, I'm talking to the police department, and he's saying, no, there's nothing we can do. And I said, I'm not asking for her to be arrested or the group of people. I'm saying to send a message to parents that we are not doing this anymore. Have their parents pick them up from the Linwood Police Department. I was also hoping to instill not a lot of fear, because you can put fear into children when they're younger that this behavior is not acceptable. And the one parent was in a state of denial, and she said, well, what did they do to my child? And so I won't name names, but I pretty much told the parents, I cannot show you the video. So she asked me to reenact what happened, and I did that. And she was shocked and embarrassed, and she wanted to apologize. But in that moment, If I brought those two parents together, I feel that they would have been fighting. But what I've noticed, and you shouldn't have to do this, the very same people who use profanity, who threaten, who harass and bully adults and as well as children, when they see the Linwood Police Department, they kind of calm down and they really, their emotions and their feelings are extremely professional. And so I want to be proactive in developing a relationship with the police department. And I said, so are you telling me if a second grader brought a gun to school that you couldn't take him there? And he explained that it would have to be severe. So as a person who wears braids, I'm thinking, snatching a braid out of somebody's head, that's not severe. And he said, not severe enough. And so I'm the type of person, if you tell me something and I don't believe you, I'm gonna do my own research. And he was correct. If you are 12 years, if you are under the age of 12, those students are protected because I don't recall the law, but basically it says pretty much, are you aware of what you're doing? Now, if you bring a weapon into a school, drugs of a certain quantity, a knife or a gun, or someone is injured to the point where they're rushed to the hospital, it pretty much has to be loss of life or major chaos. And we don't want that for our students, but I don't want to make an example out of anyone's child, but I really need parents to partner with us so that this is a more peaceful place. And before I came here, I was very judgmental when I was told that kids were sent to the police department. I was like, never under my leadership. Kids were just dropped off, and I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why that was being done, but I was told from people who have worked here for years that since I've come here, or since the leadership has changed, that there are some things that are better, but discipline is worse. I won't attribute that to leadership. In Linwood, and I did a little research, 4 years or more, people, and you can live anywhere and your children can misbehave, because I have people who live in subdivisions whose children misbehave, and I have people who live in mobile homes whose children misbehave. But now people are renting, people's homes are paid for and they are renting homes. If you don't have a homeowners association, you are not blocked from renting your home. Or people own the mobile homes and now people are renting, and now you have multiple families doubling up or claiming to be homeless, or saying that people are allowing their nieces and nephews and cousins and grandchildren to attend school here. And I'm very thankful for Ms. Purcell, because she lives here and she'll say, Dr. Noll, this family is late. Now I need to tell you, this family came today. Your policy says 31 minutes, and if you are more than 31 minutes late, we are deemed half days absence. And so I've gone to homes and I've knocked on the door and I asked, hey, can I come in? And I can clearly see that some of the mobile homes are abandoned properties. Some people are squatters. And if you fall under the category of homelessness, and I'll cover that more in the superintendent's report, and I will get to that, but we are making every family reproduce every single document as part of registration, because I interviewed someone and parents very confrontational, and she says, I've had my niece since she was 3 months old. But if you have not adopted your niece, or if you don't have a birth certificate, parents, if you don't live here, we are really holding you accountable, because it's costing us more money as far as having to hire additional teachers, and at this point, we are bursting at the seams. And then when you drive around here at night, you don't see any kids playing outside when it's warm. And so that tells me that's why my people don't want to go to summer school, because they go wherever it's too much of a burden to get them back out here. And so we're watching. And that concludes my presentation on student fees that you'll take action on.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Before we close out, I think I can speak to all of the board members that bullying is definitely not tolerated in this school, and it definitely won't be tolerated by this board. And we are willing to take aggressive measures to make sure that that is not going to be in this school. And I think I speak for all of our board members. So if you can communicate that, that would be great, but we're not gonna stand for that. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn from the committee of the whole?
I'll move to adjourn committee of the whole. A second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gray, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Newton, Mrs. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly, yes. Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
President Jenkins Brown.
Yes. Thursday, April 17th, the regular District 172 meeting is now called to order. Roll call, please.
Stacy Jenkins,
Present.
Mrs. Snelling, present. Mrs. Kruger,
Here.
Mrs. Newton, Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mrs. Gray. Oh. President Jenkins Brown.
Here. I still love you. All right, we have a quorum. Thank you. Would everyone rise and join me for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on our agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Knowles.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
As we continue to prioritize a safe, supportive, and academically focused learning environment at Sandridge School District 172, it has become necessary to address a series of concerning trends impacting our schools, namely increased student enrollment, excessive tardiness, rising absenteeism, and a significant uptick in disciplinary referrals. We have reason to believe that some families may be enrolling students who do not reside within the boundaries of our district. It is also suspected that some residents are permitting relatives and close friends to use their addresses, while others may be falsely identifying as homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. While we are legally obligated to immediately enroll students claiming homelessness, we are also mandated to investigate and verify those claims. To maintain the integrity of our enrollment process and ensure that our resources are dedicated to serving families who legally reside within our district, we are requiring that all families provide original residency documents at the time of registration. Furthermore, all students must reside with a parent or guardian who holds legal custody, is a foster parent, or has formal adoptive or custodial paperwork. In partnership with South Cook Intermediate Office and Residency officers, we will utilize the CLEAR investigative database to verify residency and initiate tuition collection procedures for families found to be in violation. By the way, that's about $17,100 per student. These measures are not intended to penalize, but to preserve the equity of our educational system for students who rightfully belong to our school community. Additionally, we are witnessing a troubling rise in discipline concerns, particularly from students who have recently transferred into the district. One such incident involved a case of bullying in which all students involved have been issued a 10-day suspension. That's the maximum number of days that you can give to any child at one time without expelling them. We, at that time, notified the Linwood Police Department and have encouraged the impacted parents to follow up with the Village of Linwood. Parents have asked us how these matters are addressed. For students under the age of 12, the village will not remove the student from our campus and require parents to pick them up, but vicious attacks on students will not be tolerated. Let me be clear, respectfully, students who consistently disrupt the learning environment or fail to comply with our code of conduct will face serious consequences, including potential placement in an alternative learning setting. We are unapologetically committed to holding both students and parents accountable for the behavior that undermines the safety, focus, and well-being of our school environment. Students have videotaped incidents on the buses. I have now assigned school officials to ride some of the buses that are problematic. We are spending approximately $800,000 to transport students to and from school, and also that includes our students who attend off-campus special education or alternative school. And when kids are suspended for 10 days, I want you to know, especially new board members, you have one employee, and that's the superintendent. They are going to reach out to you. What I would professionally and politely and humbly ask, take their name, take their number, and you might write down a brief synopsis. What I will always do is investigate, but it really should be turned over to the principal first. If there's an issue involving a teacher, the parent should start first with the teacher. So the chain of command is the teacher, the second in line is the principal, and then the third in line is the superintendent. Being very protective of the school and of the students. In a large district, rarely will you see the superintendent except for walking through the halls. But here in a small district, I'm very involved, but I have to allow Principal Pope to evolve and to show her leadership. And I have stepped up to help her because this year, when a teacher resigned at the last minute, Dr. Hester was reassigned, and it's very hard to serve as a teacher and assistant principal. So if I see parents waiting, a lot of parents, we're going to retrain parents that people will come up here and say, I need to speak with somebody right now. But we're going to try to retrain people next year to do you have an appointment? Because first thing in the morning, we need to make sure that every classroom is covered with the teacher. Sometimes you have people who are late, last minute emergencies. Until recently, we did not have enough people to sub, and now we have a few good people in the community who've stepped up to say, I'm willing to help out. And so for the first time in a long time, all classrooms are covered, and we don't have to cancel our planning periods for the teachers and pull from the specials. But when kids are suspended for 10 days, they're going to go to the village hall, talk to the mayor. The mayor has, they are very supportive of us, but the village of Linwood does not control the schools like in Chicago Public Schools. So we're getting a lot of kids transferring from the city, and that's their protocol. It's not like that here. They will reach out directly to you. I would ask, please don't make promises. You want to give the information to me, and then out of respect for my principal, I'll give it to her. And usually I'll say, I'm not calling anybody else tonight, but I usually will pick up the phone. If a parent is upset enough where they're going to call you, I want to reach out to them and say, hey, let's schedule a meeting. Let's get in here and talk about what's going on. And what you'll learn in the board governance classes, one board member cannot take action or make promises. It's four or more board members. So if I ever make a decision to transfer a student to an alternative school, it will come to the board for the board to decide, unless the parent says, I'll take the transfer in lieu of whatever the consequence will be. For the one student who was suspended with an IEP, I offered at first 3 days, and I realized all the other kids got 10 days. So just because a student has an IEP doesn't mean that I cannot give 10 days. It basically says I have to do a manifestation hearing or disability meeting to determine if your behavior was a manifestation of your disability. And if it is not, a student still can be recommended for transfer to an alternative school. So when that happens, people rush to school. I'm pulling all my kids out. Or can they just work from at home? We don't have the right to say, I'll give you the work and you can just keep them home. That's why every year we get dinged for attendance. So I said, hey, if you want to pull your kids out, you can do that, but you have to homeschool them. And I can give you some resources to support you, but the choice is yours. Well, I'm going to transfer them to Sunnybrook. Okay, that lets me know that people are using other people's addresses, because you can't be a Linwood resident and go to Sandridge today, you have to live on it's east of Torrance. East of Torrance goes to Sunnybrook. And so I'm learning my boundaries, but I would ask your support. Parents have been dealing with really challenging situations. It's not, and I want to reiterate, it's not 90% of this population. It's a core group of kids, and when you work in the main office, you quickly learn the kids. We learn the frequent flyers, and just a little quick side note, the other day, the kid, when Anita sat in on interviews with us because she served as a community member. So the kids kind of bombard Miss Gertrude, and they're in there telling their life story, and they're looking like, she's not here. I could come past the locked door, but Anita gives that look like, no, go back to class. And that's really what we need, because the kids have become too familiar. Gertrude is a loving spirit, but if you sit there and listen to them, you will become their best friend.
You can't get their work done and they can't get their work done.
And that's right. I started doing lunch with the superintendent, and Elena was like, Dr. Nas. Now every kid, they're like, they're emailing me, and I'm thinking it's an emergency, and they're like, I'm trying to get past to say hi, but the secretary won't let me in. I'm like, we need you in class. So for the kids who are here to learn, we're creating that space. For the kids who need support, we're going to give it to them. But for the kids who just don't transition with support, then we have to take some serious action to remove them from this environment. And I would say teachers would say it's 3 years in the making, but we are there now. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Niles. There's a question.
Yes.
Okay, I know we've been over this before, but I just want to refresh. I know we're working on everything. I know we're up past 400 students, but what is our limit in this building before we have to say we need trailers in the parking lot, we need to build? What's our limit?
We can do an enrollment study. So step one is to clean house the right way by doing residency verification. But at this moment in time, I don't have any more rooms available, any offices. With the increase in enrollment, this year we have 3 kindergarten classes, but we will do an actual, it's called like an enrollment demographic study to see the people who live here, do they have children that would be of school age? And I can work with Dr. Evans to do that and bring information back to the board. It usually takes a few months to do that, but I can come back to the board by August. We're not there yet, but by after next school year, if we don't ask people to leave who really don't live here, then we will be there probably by the year of 2027, 2028. With the older kids, this year we only have like 31 kids graduating. It's the younger kids that are coming.
So we're talking maybe 500, over 500 is our limit.
I can get back to you. I'll work with the architects, and I can come back in, I was gonna say June. I'll come back in May with capacity for this building. I don't know off the top of my head, so I want to get you do some research.
Out of curiosity, do we have a number on the amount of kids that we may be that we may have some suspicion of being here and not
I would say
here
30
legally?
to
About
40
30?
students,
Oh, that's a lot of
but
kids.
30 to 40 students for us might be 10 or 11 families. It might be one person that has 4 children, and then my 3 nieces live with me also. And I'm not saying I don't believe people, but I need to do some additional research.
Okay.
And those are the kids that are consistently coming in very late. And I said to a parent, I'm like, hey, we do offer transportation. It's 8:15, and some people are keeping kids at home because they work overnight and they don't want children on the buses too early, or they don't want them to leave a little one that doesn't go to school yet at home. And I have had some critical and courageous conversations to say, this 13-year-old didn't have this baby. She shouldn't have to stay at home until 10 o'clock to watch a baby. That doesn't always go over well, but in an emergency, you get it, but not every day. It's very sad.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Doctor.
Dr. Knowles, you're being the truancy officer. Do we have any plans to get somebody to do that?
In our budget for next school year, I have budgeted for 2 security officers, one of which would also be a truancy officer. We tried the year before to hire our own, but I have found that when we outsource to a company, we get a higher skill level and we don't have to pay the benefits. So for one person that's your own employee, we're able to get two. We paid for the one person this year out of the Title IV grant. Anything that goes over $35,000, we have to go out to bid to see if we could get someone to serve as a residency officer at the most competitive rate. So we're going out to bid for that in June.
Any other questions? Board members? Okay. Next on the agenda, public comments. Are there any public comments?
I think it's just me.
Okay. This is an opportunity for the public to address comments to the board. It is not a conversation with the board or individual board members. Questions will be referred to the appropriate administrator for response. If a board response is required, it will be provided at a future date. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and may not pass or give their name to any other speaker. Speakers will be required to sign in and speak before the meeting begins. Speakers are expected to conduct themselves with civility in accordance to the board policy 830, visitors to and conduct the school property. This is the only opportunity for members of the public to speak during the board meeting. During the remaining of the meeting, the public is welcome to observe the meeting, but not participants in the board discussion of the agenda items. Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Board. I am very happy to hear from Dr. Knowles that the practice of discipline at the school is going to be, changing going forward. For our April PTA meeting, Mr. Cosina attended and he gave a school improvement update. And one of the things that he talked about, we talked about getting parent involvement and, other things that are going on at the school. But what he had brought up was a parent university, which we think is a great idea, so that parents, everyone can get a printed copy of the handbook or they can look at the handbook online. But maybe, and hopefully requiring, I know this is a public school and there's only so much you can do about like enforcing parents or guardians attend these sorts of things. At private school, you have to, otherwise your kid can't, enter the building. But just as for this parent university, making them go through and initial parts of the handbook that are always, they seem to be scrutinized, like bullying. What is bullying? Because we use that term a lot when it's not actually bullying. And I think that what would be important in a parent university is to explain what that is and explain what the consequences are. Because again, if you were to poll the parents of the 450 kids, maybe 10%, maybe, have actually looked at the handbook. And there should probably also be a parent handbook so that parents understand that you can't come into the school, crazy, threatening to fight. This is what's going to happen if you do that. Or you have to have a meeting in order to speak with the principal or the superintendent. What we expect, of the parents, because it's a different climate, it's a different environment. We need to set the record straight on what it is we accept and what we'll tolerate here. Dr. Knowles did say that she'd heard that discipline is worse now, and before. I guess you're hearing that from teachers or administration, whatever. But I will tell you, before this administration came along, there was a zero tolerance, and I think that's why there were the issues there, but they dealt with them. There was no tough love at all, and I do believe in tough love, but more tough, a little less on the love, because we can't just keep forgiving and maybe next time, and okay, no, this is the consequence and you're getting it. We have to, and Dr. Null says she doesn't want to make an example out of anyone's kid. Oh no, can I please have 30 more seconds? Sometimes I think you have to make an example, because these parents don't believe us that we will, thank you, that we will be that they will be consequenced because they feel like they're running things here, and they have to be reminded that they're not, that there are rules and that they must follow them. I also think that it's important because we can't offer summer school because people sign up, they don't come. We're paying teachers that are here to teach no kids because the parents don't get them here. But there is a rule, because Dr. Knowles, you sent it out in a dojo, that if kids are tardy or absent X amount of times, they're going to have to repeat that grade. Someone has to be made an example of, because then guess what? They're going to get their kids to school on time, and they're going to make sure that, tardies go down. I think that's pretty much, and citations. If the kids aren't wearing the appropriate uniform, or if they're using profanity in class, write those citations. Make them write out what profanity they used. Make them send that home to their parents so that their kids, so that the parents can see what it is they're doing at school, so that full transparency. Your kid's not an angel. Not all kids are, but you have to do something about it. The last thing I want to say, I promise. I do notice that there is one board member that is routinely not here. And I think that we're talking about budgets, we're talking about personnel, bringing in new staff to our building, we're talking about policies. I think it's an incredible disservice to the rest of you that are here and to this school district when board members do not attend. I believe that there's a certain board member that maybe this is the 5th meeting that they've missed in a row. I just wish this board could take some kind of action on that, because there are probably other people out there in the community who would love to serve on this board and do wonderful things for the kids at this school. And that's a huge problem for me, and I'm sure many others. That's all. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ms. Ward. Okay. Board members, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes, approval of payroll, approval of the payment of the bills, and the approval of the personnel.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
Grace Snelling, yes. Mrs. Kruger, Mrs. Newton, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray, President Jenkins Brown,
Yes. Okay. Motion passed. May I have a motion to approve the United contract?
I move to approve the United contract.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gray, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Newton, Mrs. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snelling, yes. Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
President Jenkins Brown,
Yes. Okay. Motion carried. May I have a motion to approve open kitchen contract?
I'll move to approve the open kitchen contract.
Second.
I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Snelling, yes. Mrs. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Newton, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray, President Jenkins Brown,
Yes. Okay, motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the tentative budget amendment fiscal year 25?
Move to approve the tentative budget.
Second,
Second. I second.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gray, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Newton, Mrs. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snelling, yes. Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
President Jenkins Brown,
Yes. Okay, motion carried. May I have a motion to approve student fees school year 26? May I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second, Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gray, Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mrs. Newton, Mrs. Kruger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snelling, yes. Dr. Stacy Jenkins,
Yes.
President Jenkins Brown.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay. May I finally have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting is now adjourned. It is 7:25.